Running a Fever, Episode 5, Goals and Habits. Heading out today. Feeling fine. It's just, I was thinking today that eventually there's going to come that day when I say, I'm gonna need to not run today because I don't have time to do it. There probably is and that's gonna be a real thing. I'm gonna need to take that time for something that's more important. Even though, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, physical fitness is my number one priority. I've set that as my number one priority. I'm trying to live up to that. It's not easy, as you know. I got home today from work. I had some dental work today and didn't have much of a lunch. And I just want to eat. I really want to eat. I just want to stay home and just eat all night long. But I got into the habit, and this is another great thing to know and to try as a concept here of just being in the habit of something. I've heard a wise person, mentor of mine, told me that habits are hard to break. Good habits are hard to break, and bad habits are also hard to break. So if you replace a bad habit with a good habit, then there's a good chance that you have a chance of succeeding. But it takes some time to establish a habit. You don't get a habit from just one day. So this is day 5, and I'm really happy that I've made it 5 days. I know that's just a really short time in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of a habit, having those repeated days of doing my exercise like I've committed myself to do is going to help me in the long run. And then when that day comes when I really do need to spend that time doing something else, then that habit will be established and I will get right back to it. I found that to be true in other areas of my life as well. Anything that you establish as a habit, even if you break it once in a while, it's easy to get back into it. But it's also easy to get out of it too. It's easy to take that one day off and turn it into 2 days off or a week off. One of the things I've been mentioning on a consistent basis is injury. And that's the one thing I really hope to avoid, because that appears to be, and probably is, a legitimate reason for missing a workout. And it can lead to just completely dropping the habit altogether. Now, I got a book back today I'd loaned to someone because I'd recommended it highly to him, and it's called Living Forward, and I don't have the author's name handy, but it's called Living Forward, and I think it was co-written by 2 authors. And Living Forward is about making a life plan. It's about taking the areas of your life that you define and saying, starting with, where do I want to be? Setting a goal by writing your obituary, which is a unique, well, it's not unique. I've heard about it. I heard about it in, what was I looking at? Tom Cruise had a movie where he was a bartender, and he was in a business class, and the guy, had him write his own obituary, and he didn't really. Well, I guess he did kind of get it, because billionaire governor Brian Flanagan dies at age 90 while betting his 18-year-old wife or something like that. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. This book, Living Forward, is about making a life plan. So I chose the different categories that I wanted, my personal life, my work life, my creative life, my spiritual life. And I decided, in the end, you sort of rank what you think is important and prioritize, because how do you do all these things? You've got to have a priority. And my number one priority was physical fitness, because that is what everything else depends on. It's my life, in effect. And so that was last November, and I haven't done a whole lot. Occasionally walking like I'm doing now, but I would eventually drift out of it, like I've talked about. Physical fitness is my number one priority, so I hope that I can now keep that foremost in my mind. I've got to revisit this because, like I said, it was last November, I took a whole day off of my non-job because I was unemployed at the time, and went to a hotel where it was very quiet. It was on a weekday and was just out of the way, out at the airport, and I think I got done in about 5 hours actually writing. And I wrote 30 pages of stuff. But anyway, life plan. If you're interested, Living Forward is the book. I'm not sure who the author is. So here I am at Lake Fayetteville. I will see you when I get back. Okay, just got back. A pretty good run. Actually, mostly walking, of course, these days. 30 minutes approximately. Another 1.5 miles on the flat part of the course. At the 3/4 mile point, when I was turning around, I started to run. I ran for 30 seconds today, twice as long as I ran yesterday. Pretty good pace. I had the same issue that I had yesterday, and that is the pace. I kind of slowed down and kind of, kept having to remind myself to speed up, but I had a better pace coming out of the first leg or the way out on the trail. So I looked at my gear and it said 28 minutes and I was almost finished. So I figure 30 minutes, 1.5 miles, so 3 miles an hour, which is a lot slower than I estimated when I first came out here. And I think it could be either math or measurements. I think it's more likely measurements. I think the math was fairly sound. So didn't record any out on the trail. It was very windy. Also quite dark. Getting dark on the way out. In fact, I got a picture of the moon in the first part of the workout when I was heading out. When I came back, it was very dark. I mentioned the first time I came out that I didn't believe it was lighted, and it isn't lighted at all on the trail itself. There is light in the parking lot, and the street next to the trail is lighted, but there's sometimes trees in between. And then you go around a corner and there's another street, which I'm not sure which street it is, but that one is also probably lighted. I don't know. I didn't go very far that way. But on the whole, pretty good workout today. And I want to also mention I had talked about when I sat down after, I would sit down for like an hour after working out for some reason. Not sure why, what the medical reason is, but for some reason after doing that, after a run, I was very stiff. So yesterday, while I was hydrating after the workout, I walked around before I took my shower and all that. I just walked around my house. That helped a lot. I think the hydrating, the cool down, those are really good things to do just based on how I feel after doing them. So I'm going to continue to do that, to do those things because they work. I was a little concerned. I'm getting concerned about operating in the dark because it's not going to get any better. The darkness is going to keep coming earlier. So there's no getting around the fact that I'm either going to have to work out at a different time, like the morning, which after the switch from daylight savings time is a little brighter, or I've got to find a way to run in the dark and figure out how to do that safely. That's the most important thing. Safety. So, pretty good run. And this is going to be kind of a short episode, probably, because I didn't do any talking on the run. Although, when I edited my first show, I had to cut out most of the run part because of wind noise. Hopefully that will get better as I try different kinds of technology and different kinds of techniques to make the show better. And I hope you've enjoyed this, joining me on my journey. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to have you with me here as I go from, couch potato to track star or something like that. Anyway, keep the fever, and I'll talk at you next time.